Welcome to The Healing Life. I'm Amanda. This podcast is for people committed to healing, not as a finish line, but as a way of living. Every episode, we talk honestly about what it actually looks like to keep choosing healing as life unfolds. When things get better, when they get harder, and when another layer shows up. Let's get into it. Okay, everyone, we're going to jump right into the messy middle of something I've got going on in my life right now. I am 38 years old and I was recently diagnosed with autism, which was both a shock and not at all shocking when I really stopped to think about it. So for as long as I can remember, I have felt off. I have felt like there was, I think of it like this translucent material, like a black veil separating me from everybody else. And that's always been there for as long as I can remember. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know if it was my trauma. I didn't know if it's because I'm just like weird or something. But it's always been there. And it's been one of the most stressful aspects of my life because I've always felt like there was something going on and I knew it was going on, like with other people, but I couldn't figure it out. I know that there's subtext there. I know that there's other things going on in like people's facial expressions or the way they say words when they say them. I know that there's more, and I have really struggled in my life to figure out what it means. I try to just be very straightforward. I'm a very what you see is what you get sort of person. I don't really do passive aggression. I'm just blunt. I'm really blunt. And I've learned how to soften it, and I can do that. And in fact, I often choose to do that. I also sometimes choose to just be very blunt. But for instance, in job interviews and stuff, when they're like, what are your greatest strengths and your greatest weaknesses? Like, first, can we get better questions? But also, I've always kind of used a version of that, like, well, I'm not really great at the politics of the workplace. That's how I would usually phrase it. So I try to surround myself with people who are really savvy in that way, and I build strong relationships with them, and I surround myself with mentors who I feel have a really good read on the room, and that's how I phrased it as an adult, as a professional. And it's been definitely something that I've had to work around in every iteration of my career. There's been that underlying something's going on and I don't know what it is feeling. And I've been really intentional about seeking out people to fill in those gaps for me, surrounding myself with people who have that strength. And then, I try to make it a fair trade. I bring a lot of pattern recognition and strategic thinking and trauma-informed leadership. I feel like I also have a lot to give, but I've had to surround myself with people who understand social nuance and the workplace politics nuance. And it's been so stressful for me my whole life. And autism has occurred to me at various points over the past, I think about 10 years. I've gone to multiple therapists I've worked with during the last decade and been like, hey, do I need to be evaluated for autism? Would that be useful? Would that potentially be a missing puzzle piece? And I was always told, no, you're too good socially. You don't have autism. Like you navigate social situations really well. And I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I can figure out what to say a lot of the time, but I live with crippling social anxiety. I hate leaving my house. Like, to be honest, if my husband were here, he'd laugh and he'd be like, Amanda, you hate leaving your room, which is facts. I can do it. I do it all the time. But I am like internally frozen by social anxiety anytime I have to interact with another human. That doesn't mean like don't reach out. I'll be fine. But also, it's hard. It's hard for me because there's stuff that I know is going on around me. People are putting stuff down that I'm not picking up. And I guess also like I'm a very frank, open person. And I think that occasionally that's too much for people. And so I've had to learn how and when to be blunt and honest and all of those things. Maybe that's why I like podcasting, because if you're here, you can handle it. So I'm gonna talk to you. Maybe that's why I enjoy this so much. But I guess I just kind of went with the whole, "Hey, you're too good socially. Let's work on other things," framing for the last decade because I'm not the expert on autism. Well, I wasn't then. I mean, I'm probably gonna be give me, 2 more weeks. I'll have it all figured out. But it took a lot and also not a lot in the end for me to just decide to go get evaluated. I was doing research around some similar, like, tangential stuff, and for part of that, I was looking up reputable sources on YouTube, trying to find materials for a course, an undergrad course I teach. I was trying to find stuff for students, and the algorithm kept showing me based on other stuff I was searching, it kept showing me high masking, late diagnosed autism in women, signs of autism specifically in women, signs of high masking specifically in women. And I was like, okay, YouTube, I see you, YouTube/universe. Like, I'm going to take some time and hyper fixate on these videos for a while. So I did. And then because I'm a PhD student and I have access to a global academic database, I got on there and I started looking up research articles and I started pulling up the validated measures for assessing autism and how to score them. And I did probably what you're not supposed to do. So, like, don't do what I did, but this is what I did. I took the assessments and then I used the scoring instructions to score them. And I was like, oh, I think I'm autistic. I should probably loop in a professional at this point. So I did, and the paperwork was like, 8 business years worth of paperwork. It was so much. I had to basically, like, write a novel about my whole life. They were like, "Do you have any trauma or anything in your background?" I was like, "Hold my beer." So we talked through all of that, or rather I wrote about it for, like I said, about 8 business years. And then I had to redo, like, other assessment, other validated measures. And then there was a wait, and then it was a 3-hour assessment with a psychologist, and I was diagnosed with not just ADHD, but combined type, so that's fun, and autism. And I guess we have to back up a little bit because I realized the extent to which I was masking before I had this appointment with the psychologist to get assessed and diagnosed ultimately. And I had this crazy idea, like, what if I stopped masking? What if I just started playing around with this even before it's all official? Would it help? Would anything change? Okay, so those of you who have gone through this process will understand when I say the utter terror in my heart when I realized how much I stim but suppress it, and letting the anxiety out in safe places where I was, like, sobbing on the floor, hyperventilating. And when I stopped the very nuanced and layered people-pleasing social responses I've crafted over the course of my life to say instead of what I wanna say, which is, like, very honest and direct. I can't do that everywhere. I started doing that, like, with my husband, and at first he was very startled, and then we figured out, like, this actually works very well for him. He doesn't mind it at all, and we've had a much better marriage ever since. But it's terrifying. It's terrifying to be like, all of these tools and all of these mechanisms and all of these things that I have carefully, subconsciously crafted and honed over the course of almost 4 decades to fucking survive. I'm just gonna put those all down now. It's fine. And I started, like, slowly going through and figuring out, where am I masking? Oh, that's how I'm masking there. Okay, well, is this a safe context to try not having a mask? And I started playing around with it. Like, I have a colleague in my cohort for my PhD studies who's a very safe person. I ended up telling her, and then when we studied together, because we study together every week, I would find myself, like, stimming around her in a way that normally I would have suppressed. Like, my whole life, I've suppressed it. And at first I felt really, really, really awkward. And I guess I felt a little immature, if I'm being honest. Like, guys, having to, like, come to terms with internalized stigma that you have is really not a fun thing, but it's important. So here I am grappling with it. But I tend to think of that as childish behavior. And having to untangle that and realize, no, that's just an appropriate neurological, physiological response for a person with autism. It's a journey. I'm still on it. But I would find myself stimming around my friend in my cohort, and I noticed nothing bad happened. Not only did she keep studying with me and not make me feel weird for being a little more direct and stimming, the day after I told her I was autistic, I was sitting there going like, well, probably lost that friendship forever. She texted and she was like, hey, me and some of my friends are going to this book event. Want to come? And I probably need to tell her. Well, I think she listens, so she'll probably hear this. So publicly, thank you for doing that, because you were one of the first people outside of my immediate family I told. And the fact that your response was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to bring you around people I love, respect, and trust, and like, you'll be fine, was probably one of the most validating, wonderful things anyone could have done. So be like my friend, guys. If someone tells you that they're autistic, just continue on as normal. If you were going to invite them to do something with you or your circle, keep that plan. It'll mean the world to them. So you might be wondering, like, how did this happen and why now? That's a great question. I have some hypotheses. The first one is perimenopause. I think that going through that transition in your body, like, you just stop having fucks to give because you run out of energy. Like, your ears itch. You've got other issues. And keeping up the mask is very draining, as it turns out. And I think when perimenopause hits, something's got to give. So your body just involuntarily goes like, how about that mask? That seems like a great thing to put down. Let's stop juggling the mask. So it's very freeing and liberating and insanely terrifying at the same time, because this mask has like saved you your whole life. It's been the thing that's allowed you to move through the world and hide with the neurotypical people and help you present like you're a neurotypical person, sort of, kind of. I think that was also one of my biggest fears, that people would find out and be like, oh yeah, we knew, or, oh, that's what's wrong with you. So maybe like don't say that to people. If you have to think it privately and away from that person, because we're probably already worried about that. But I think that perimenopause and just running out of energy to maintain the mask, combined with having two kids move into our home when we started fostering last year, that was like an onslaught on my nervous system. And don't get me wrong, I love these kids. And I am finding that I can summon the energy to regulate my nervous system so that they can borrow my calm when their nervous systems are dysregulated. Like, I can still manage it, but it was a very significant shift in the home dynamic. And suddenly, instead of just managing my husband's nervous system being around me and our very weird dog's high anxiety nervous system, I suddenly had to manage the nervous systems of 3 other people and my very anxious dog. I think that put like too much strain on the mask. So I think the mask was very much tattered by the time I put it down. But it's been really hard for me picking my battles in all of this. So something I have been saying to like doctors, therapists, significant others, close friends for like 15 years now is, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. On a cellular level, I am exhausted. Maybe I just need to go live in a cabin in the mountains in Switzerland for a year, and then maybe I'll be able to live. Maybe I'll be able to keep doing this thing called life that is so exhausting to me. I'm so tired from my life. I've thought that it was just the exhaustion of trauma, which is a valid thing all in its own. But then when I realized I've been masking my way through my existence, like, no fucking wonder. No wonder I'm so tired. I am exhausted. In addition to all the trauma and healing and all this stuff, all of it, I've been carefully constructing it, and through sheer willpower and energy I don't have, I just like had to manufacture out of thin air. I've been keeping up this front of hopefully neurotypical behavior. Like, that was the hope, obviously. And I think it has just drained the fucking life out of me. I am trying to make some changes, and this isn't going to be a heavy research episode. I am sure I will do a deeper dive on this. I've got lots of sources. Right now, this is more just like okay, guys, we're going to talk about one of the messy pieces of being on a healing journey. And the current one I'm on is trying to heal from this burnout that's like, it's nearly taken my life. It has nearly taken my life, and it has nearly ended my marriage. It's been very, very hard. And I'm also this hyper type A person with moral scrupulosity, OCD. I think that I am a terrible person if I am ever anything but perfect. So that's a lot to live with. I don't recommend that approach to life. I give it 0 out of 5 stars, but alas, it's something I'm still working through. And I've had to let balls drop. When we had those issues in post-production a couple weeks ago and I couldn't get the episode out that week, that was so hard on me. In addition to thinking I was just like this horrible person, I let something drop and I don't do that. I let something drop. I let something I really care about drop so that I could, make sure I got through my stats final. And it went great. I got 99 out of 100 on it, guys. So I guess it was worth it. But apparently, based on what I'm reading, that is what recovering from autistic burnout looks like. You have to stop doing things sometimes, which is my nightmare. And so I've been trying in small ways. When it became obvious that the episode wasn't going to come out that week, we weren't going to be able to get it across the finish line, I had a good cry. I felt like a terrible human for a week. It'll probably turn into a year. It's okay. And then I just had to accept that ball dropped. That ball dropped. I did not have the wherewithal to force it into existence. So that ball dropped. And when my husband says things like, hey, I will do school drop off this week, the whole week, so that you can try to get a little more sleep. I let him do that. I let him do that for a whole week, a couple weeks ago. And I felt like a terrible wife. I felt like a terrible mom. Okay, I guess I still feel like those things. But I did it. And I'm working on writing an article that we're going to submit to an academic journal for publication. And I sent my team a shitty first draft. It was unedited. And I didn't agonize over it and try to get it perfect. That's huge for me. That might seem very well, yeah, Amanda, of course that is what one does. I did not do that until now. And the wonderful thing is that I think it's kind of working. I mean, it's a huge adjustment for me. And there's this trade-off because I'm very stressed because I'm doing all these things that I don't normally do. And I feel like I'm not performing as well as I normally do. And I feel like I'm dropping balls and I'm this terrible person. But at the same time, I have a little more energy. My husband and I are laughing a lot more. And when I say guys, it was rough there for a while because of our neurotypical and neurodivergent communication patterns that we didn't know were neurotypical and neurodivergent. And we have struggled with communication in our relationship. And this goes way back. Kyle will feel like I don't care because I guess I can kind of have that flat affect. So my face doesn't give away what I'm feeling, but inside I'm feeling everything. I really do feel, but I guess it does not come across. Sometimes in crucial moments when we're arguing about something and he needs to know I'm with him, I'm in it with him, I guess look kind of like a robot. So that would hurt him. And then because of the way he communicates, he uses a lot of subtext. He relies heavily on subtext and facial expressions. And I'll just be sitting there what is going on? I don't understand. And I'll ask him again and again, what do you mean? What does that mean? You moved your eyebrow. What does that mean? Because I know that eyebrow movement means 2 paragraphs, but I don't know what those 2 paragraphs are. What are the paragraphs? What are the paragraphs? And he couldn't tell me. I'm just supposed to know. So I felt like he was gaslighting me and he felt like I didn't care. And it was just this whole mess. We were in marriage counseling for it. And now there's an answer. There are 2 paragraphs when he moves his eyebrow. So he just needs to tell me what they are. And when I'm getting the sense that he feels like I'm not in it with him, I need to find a way, even if my face or my body language isn't showing that I have a lot of feelings, I need to show him or tell him the feelings that I have. So we're coming at this from a totally new and different angle that was previously unavailable to us because we didn't know. But it's that's working too, guys. And we're finding new ways to communicate. And I suddenly I have this whole insight into what's going on with him because he's realizing he needs to tell me the subtext. It's not fair to expect that I'll figure it out. And I'm realizing it's not fair for me to think that all this emotion is coming through because I'm feeling it, but it's not showing up. It's not landing for him. So we're working on it. We're laughing a lot more. Things have been lighter. So I guess the moral of the story is I thought that this was going to be like big and bad and ruin my life, but my marriage is getting better. I'm getting more energy back, and my friend still invited me to go to the book event. So putting down the mask, as scary as it is, ultimately worth it. Really weird, adjusting to it, still slip in and out of it constantly. Probably even in this episode, I've slipped in and out of it a dozen times. But I think the thing that I find the most hopeful is I started the journey. I'm on the road. I have something to work with now, so I can keep moving forward, and my husband and I can keep moving forward. We shared it with the kids. We're waiting for their school year to end, and then we're going to like sit down as a family and kind of do an inventory. Does anyone else have anything going on? What are the needs that we have as a group? Because, for instance, I used to eat the same thing again and again and again, and I liked that. That was simple for me. I didn't have to figure out so many things, and it was easy to shop, and I could get in and out of the grocery store. And now I've got Kyle and one of our kids who are like, no, we had that in the last week. We can't eat that again. And so that's been an adjustment that's been really hard on me. So we're trying to figure out like how to balance and negotiate. Like, okay, how can you guys get diversity in the dinner menu while I get the comfort of repetition and how that soothes my nervous system? So we're going to figure it out, and it's going to be okay. And I'm looking forward to getting to the point where like I consistently have a steady stream of energy. I haven't had that in so long. I forget what it's like. For now, I just cling desperately to my cup of coffee and the hope that I've always stayed on the path when it comes to figuring things out and healing things and working through things. So I know I'm going to stay on the path with this. I know it's going to get better. I'm really grateful to have answers. I am still working through my fear that people won't accept me if and when they find out, but that's okay. And I appreciate you sitting with me in this moment. If this resonates with you, hi friend, you're not alone. I'm not alone. We're all in this together. Thanks for spending this time with me. Take what you need, leave the rest, and keep moving in the direction of your healing. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs it. That's how we all find each other. Subscribe to The Healing Life wherever you listen, and I'll see you in the next episode as the journey continues.